Okay, it's 6 p.m. We're going to call this meeting to order. Have this week's packet.
There's an echo.
There is an echo. Calling to order the Zoning Board of Appeals for December 7th. Why is there? Roll call show that everyone is here except the two Ryans. Easy to do roll call that way. And the first order on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the November 2nd meeting. Staff had a chance to review that. Are there any edits or motions?
I move to approve the minutes from the November 2nd meeting.
Second, Artie seconds it. All those in favor of approving the November 2nd meeting?
Aye.
Excellent, thank you. Organizational and procedural items? Yes.
Yeah, we just have one thing, which is that next month we'll need to do elections. So start thinking about who you might want to nominate.
It's great. They come up quickly, don't they?
Yeah.
There's no unfinished business that I'm aware of. So we'll proceed with the Zoning Board of Appeals preamble. The Zoning Board of Appeals is charged with the responsibility of granting variances to ordinance requirements after determining whether there exists an undue hardship upon an applicant. In determining whether or not to grant a variance, the board shall apply the criteria specified in the City Code of Ordinances to the facts of each case. The Zoning Board of Appeals does not create zoning, nor does it change zoning. Matters brought here before the Zoning Board of Appeals are to be concerned only with variances from requirements of the zoning ordinance, sign ordinance, and development and environmental ordinance. The board has no authority to grant variances for use, density, or height. Further, the board hears cases requesting an appeal to a staff interpretation or decision on these same ordinances. Final decisions of the Zoning Board of Appeals may be appealed by petitioning the Superior Court of DeKalb County within 30 days after the decision here this evening is rendered. And with that, we will proceed to the first case of the evening, which is ZBA case 23-15, requesting two variances from chapter 27, section 58 to allow an encroachment of a porch into the rear setback and to exceed the maximum lot coverage to allow construction of a porch.
Thank you. So these are the existing conditions as shown in the survey to the right. The rear facade of the existing home can be seen in the photo to the left. The applicant is proposing to construct a 574 square foot screen porch to the rear of the home, which will encroach into the rear setback by 14.7 feet. You can see that outlined in blue on the site plan to the right. It will also increase the lot coverage to 41.8%, which is 1.8% more than the allowed lot coverage of 40%. As part of the project, the applicant will remove 27 square feet of existing patio space. The proposed elevations can be seen to the left. So this neighborhood Wintergate is fairly unique because it was developed as cluster homes under standards that are no longer in effect, and therefore it doesn't really match the R100 zoning regulations, which are intended for more traditional single-family neighborhoods. Many lots in this neighborhood exceed the lot coverage. We've had a few lot coverage variances for here in recent years. Almost a third of the surrounding homes in the neighborhood have porches to the rear of the home. You can see that indicated with the stars on the right. Most of these porches were either part of the original construction or were constructed before stricter lot coverage regulations were in place. The applicant's proposed project increases the lot coverage to only 1.8% above the allowed maximum, which is a relatively minor improvement and would not go beyond the minimum necessary to afford relief. Overall, the requested variance for lot coverage would be consistent with the spirit and purpose of the zoning ordinance. The subject property meets the minimum standard for lot width as required for the R100 zoning district, but it doesn't meet the minimum standards for lot area. It's slightly smaller than what it should be. In opposition to current procedures, the subject lot includes half the width of the private neighborhood street, which significantly reduces the functional lot below the on paper measured lot area. The subject property's lot depth is relatively shallow, and the existing home is built right up to the rear setback, leaving limited room for improvements to the rear of the home. Many of the lots in this subdivision could construct rear porches without encroaching into the minimum setbacks, but some could not. The rear setbacks range from about 25 to 55 feet. The size of the applicant's proposed porch is similar to the size of other rear porches in the neighborhood. Overall, a rear porch is a standard improvement to the use of the property, and staff finds that the proposed porch does not go beyond a minimum necessary to afford relief. The requested variance would not be detrimental to public welfare and would be consistent with the spirit and purpose of the zoning ordinance and the comprehensive plan. So based on these reasons, staff is recommending approval of the request, subject to the conditions here, our standard condition, conditioning to the site plan, and then requiring that construction start within 2 years of the granting of this variance. As a final note, we received 2 letters in support. Those were included in the application packet, and I'm available for any questions.
Great, thank you. Any initial questions, board? Would the applicant care to address the podium and state their case for the variance? Just identify yourself and your
Yeah, I'm
address.
Jeffrey Hess, and this is
Yeah.
my wife, Mary Jane.
Thank you.
We are the applicants. I'm not sure what the process is here, but so I think
Freelance.
a couple thoughts on our side. One, this has been a pretty rigorous process. It's been lengthy. We've had architects involved, we've had surveyors involved, we had a builder involved. And I think we're pretty confident that I think what the staff recommends is pretty spot on. The neighborhood is interesting. It's unique. And if you take a look at the neighborhood, we probably have at least 60% of the neighborhood has something similar, if not significantly more lot coverage than we do. And I also think that some of the comments made specifically about the street being a private neighborhood does quite diminish our available lot coverage. And I guess for what it's worth, what we're trying to do here is we have 3 boys, a big dog, and we didn't build the house. It's got a breakfast area that just doesn't support a whole lot of usage, and we're trying to build off of that to give some outdoor living space for, you know, our family.
Okay, that's great.
Any questions?
Not yet, not yet.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Anyone here that wants to speak also in favor of this application? Anyone in opposition? Okay, with that, I'll close it for public comment and board discussions.
I got a question, and maybe is the staff or the applicant. There's something saying that 27% was taken out. There's a 27% part that I don't quite understand.
So there's 27 square feet of patio space that's being removed as part of the project. I don't know if maybe.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So if you look at the design, we have a sort of a flagstone patio that comes off of the breakfast nook and sort of step down to it now. Portion of that's got to be removed to allow for the actual build out of this. And so that's where that comes from.
Okay, so that means that, does that mean that you're losing 27% and putting back, or it's going to be still, it's going to be greater than it was before?
No, well,
I understand
no,
it's
no, no,
1.8.
no,
I understand
the
that part.
hardscape patio, we're just going to be lessened.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
that's what I
I mean, that's actually physically has to happen the way it's built alongside of the house. So as this moves out, that's got to come out anyway.
Yeah, so you're actually having less space, you're using less space than you would have, than you were using before.
Well, of the actual outdoor patio, that's correct.
Okay, that was my point.
Okay, thank you.
As far as encroachment, it looks like it's not, it's maybe a few feet. I don't know if anybody's looked at that from the,
Yeah,
right,
it's-
from the patio. But actually, it's not much further out than the patio as far as encroachment goes, right?
I think it is exactly 2 feet.
Yeah, this is coverage. There's 2 issues, right? One is setback, one is coverage, you know, it's, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like there's already probably up, like you said, Allegra, it's already on the line pretty much as far as the setback goes. Now, there's mention, I think, in the packet of a pool. There's no variances required for that. How does that fit into the plan?
At present, well, we did this inclusive of if we were going to actually build a pool in, but we are not asking for a variance on that at this point in time.
Okay,
We decided against that.
okay,
So instead of redoing everything, we said, hey, let's go with what we already put forth, but we're just gonna focus on this actual patio or this outdoor area.
Yeah, so that was an original proposal,
Correct.
and that's subsequently been modified to sort of reduce the requests after I met with the applicant.
Okay, great.
Alrighty. If you
Any
guys
other
are ready.
questions?
The only thing I'd say, the applicant, excellent packet and good information, and thank you for the letter from the HOA. That was the homeowners. It was interesting. So that was helpful to understand how that particular subdivision works different than most subdivisions.
Yes,
So it was very helpful. So thank you.
you're welcome. We've actually got a great group of folks, and we've made many sorts of changes to our property, not like this, but even changing our tree lines to be, our coverage areas as opposed to fencing. We're a pretty tight community and we care about each other, and they were very nice to actually do this for us.
Thanks. It helps us interpreting the zoning, the laws of zoning.
It was super. Like I
Understanding
said,
with
it's
your
been a
street.
good process. We feel pretty good about it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion if you guys are ready. Alright, so I move to approve the request for 2 variances from chapter 27, section 58 to allow a porch to encroach into the rear setback and to exceed the maximum lot coverage to allow construction of a porch with the following condition. First, construction must be in substantial compliance with the submitted site plan prepared by Site Work Surveys and Planning and dated 7/26/2023, and the appendix is A. And the second one is, if construction has not commenced within 2 years of the granting of this variance, approval shall be void.
I second.
We have a first and a second on the floor for approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
We'll proceed to the next case this evening. The next application is ZBA 23-18, which also requests 2 variances. One from chapter 27, section 58 to allow a deck to encroach into the rear setback. And another one from chapter 27, section 269 to allow a retaining wall to encroach into the rear setback. Staff, please help us out with this one.
Thank you. So there is some background on the property. There is a 10-foot drainage easement along the southern edge of the property. You can see that it's sort of clouded a little bit on the site plan. There is an approximate 30-foot drop from the property line along Delverton Court to the rear of the property. And there is also a lake, Kingsley Lake, to the rear of the property, and an associated 25-foot state buffer that the applicant does not plan to encroach into. So how this came to us is that in August 2023, the Georgia Department of Natural Resources received a complaint regarding state buffer encroachment at the property and passed the complaint along to the city of Dunwoody. The applicant has since stabilized the areas within the buffer, removed the encroachment that was not allowed, and paid a fine in court. So that portion of the code enforcement issue is resolved. So that's not a part of the case tonight. I just present it as background on the property. So when the city engineer went out to the site as part of this code enforcement complaint, he noticed 2 unpermitted projects that had been constructed, a new retaining wall and an expanded deck. The new retaining wall replaced a previous retaining wall in a different footprint, which increased the encroachment into the rear setback. You can see the retaining wall in the photo on the bottom to the right. And then the current elevated deck expanded upon a previous deck by adding a second set of steps, which increased the encroachment into the rear setback. Therefore, the new construction prompts 2 variance requests. The 640 square foot deck, which is shown in blue on the site plan, encroaches 9.7 feet into the rear setback. And the 30-inch tall retaining wall, which is shown in red on the site plan, encroaches 24.8 feet into the rear setback. So both of these have construction that is already completed. So the encroachment of both the 30-inch tall retaining wall and the deck into the rear setback would normally prompt a special administrative permit. However, since the work was done without a permit, the applicant is required to go through the variance process. The applicant has not provided documentation of the previous conditions and stated that both improvements were updated replacements. However, based on aerial imagery, which I have if anyone needs to see that, it appears that the deck is an expansion of what was existing previously and that the retaining wall is rebuilt in a slightly different location. So that's how we ended up here. So the subject property meets the minimum standard for lot area and depth as required for the R100 zoning district. However, it has 6 sides, which creates a really unusual shape rather than a typical rectangular lot size. The rear property lines are severely tapered, which creates a rear setback that intersects with the other setbacks at some fairly odd angles and reduces the overall buildable area. There are some other unusual lot shapes in the subdivision, but this subject property is uniquely disadvantaged when it comes to lot shape. A deck is a standard and typical improvement for homeowners in this neighborhood. Almost every house in the street has one to the rear of the property, and most could construct one without encroaching into the rear setback. The deck is merely an expansion of what was existing previously and appears to be the minimum relief necessary to accommodate the improvements to the property. Without accounting for the unique conditions of the site, the strict application of the setbacks would prevent incremental changes to the use of the property, which staff considers a practical difficulty. The subject property drops off approximately 30 feet from the front property line to the rear of the property, which creates a sloped backyard. The retaining wall replaced a previous retaining wall in a different footprint, and again appears to be the minimum necessary to afford relief. At only 30 inches tall, the retaining wall is a relatively minor improvement. Overall, staff finds that the request meets the spirit and intent of the zoning ordinance and would not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare. Based on these reasons, we're recommending approval of the request, subject to the conditions here, and there's only one, that it be in compliance with the site plan. Obviously, it's already constructed, so no need for that second condition. And additionally, we received 13 letters in support. Those were included in the packet. I'm available for any questions.
Great, thank you.
I have a quick question with the, oh my gosh, the retaining wall encroaching into the setback. Is the distance that you stated, and I don't remember, is it 30 inches tall? What was the distance? I'm curious, is that the distance along the wall, or the distance from the farthest point of the wall to the setback line?
Yeah, good question. So it's 24.8 feet from the furthest point of the wall.
Okay. So it's not the perimeter portion that's in there.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, we
thank
just
you.
measure from the furthest point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would the applicant care to address the board and explain their application?
Hi, I'm Robin Skolsky, I'm a special feedback. We had, like we said, this was completed the city of Dunwoody bylaws with the retaining wall under 4 feet tall, you don't need a permit. We changed it to round, but it's actually in, from my understanding, the same place.
Smaller.
So it's rounded, it was square. But the deck, yes, we added the second set of stairs, and it was a safety thing. The deck, we were really replacing boards, and it became a noticeable issue that stuff had to be replaced, not, repaired or changed. So that's where we are. We've learned.
Anyone else here? We had all those notes. You said like we're in the, and it was very nice to have all that support in the packet. So I don't. Anyone else here to speak this evening? I don't have any. Okay,
Neighbors
good.
just came for support.
Okay, great. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, hi, my name's Jim Majors. I am a neighbor across the street. Familiar with the property, familiar with the other properties in the neighborhood. This, I think, was work that they kind of needed to do. If it might be slightly bigger than what they had before, but it was a massive improvement over the deck that was there before, and the retaining wall. I mean, it's a huge improvement over the square old wooden retaining wall that was in place before. So I totally support what they're doing here.
Thank you. Okay, those look like there's any other folks to speak in favor. I suspect we don't have any in opposition here this evening. So with that, I'll close for comments for the board.
So the first question I had, so who built the wall? I mean, is it a contractor or you guys?
I did.
You did. Okay, that's bad. The second thing is, I think staff said you had a copy of the old one. Is that something you could just show us?
We have a picture.
That way I can
Yeah, we
kind of
have-
see how much more.
Yeah,
it
so
is.
we have some aerial imagery.
Can you show it to me?
We don't have something super clear, but you can see here that the retaining wall was previously in a square shape, as they've stated, and now it's in a circular shape. And then that set of steps furthest away from the deck, those are new as well. So some relatively minor stuff.
Gotcha.
Any other questions, board?
Yeah, I don't usually like those, but they don't have a contract. So,
Your thinking was if they had a contract, they would have been perfect.
yeah, I'm like,
Would have been
yeah,
perfect.
you didn't get a permit? Because sometimes the contractors conveniently forget that you need a permit.
But often it's the case where it's the homeowner that did the work and just didn't know.
Right.
So, and making improvements, doing right by their environmental stewardship for lake issues and protecting their yard as well and trying to use it with that steep drop.
Yeah,
I get it.
yeah.
Asking for forgiveness rather than permission.
Yeah, that's the part that I don't really like that much, but hey.
And the contractor that did your deck, who was that?
The friend of mine helped me.
Oh, helped you. Okay, you did the deck too. And well, I'm impressed. I'll get your
I know.
name after.
I know.
Gosh. Okay, well because that's a massive deck. So okay. I thought you just meant the retaining wall. So thanks for clarifying. All right.
All right, any other questions, any motions?
I move to approve the request for two variances, one from chapter 27, section 58 to allow a deck to encroach into the rear setback, and one from chapter 27, section 269 to allow a retaining wall to encroach into the rear setback. Following the condition that construction must be in substantial compliance with the submitted site plan prepared by Foothills Land Surveying LLC dated April 29th, 2016, and subsequently altered by the applicant as in Appendix A.
Second.
Okay, Ellen motioned, Claire seconded, all those in favor?
Hi.
Approved, thank you.
Thank you.
Final case of this evening is ZBA case 23-19, requesting a variance from chapter 27, section 58 to allow a house to encroach into the rear setback and side setback.
All right, thank you. So the subject lot is at the corner of Vermac Road and Vanderland Drive, and the front property line is along Vanderland Drive. So the required 35-foot street setback is applied to both the west and south property lines, the 40-foot rear setback to the north property line, and the 10-foot interior side setback to the east property line. The house faces the west property line on Vermac Road, and approximately 20% of the home encroaches into the 40-foot rear setback. A portion of the home also encroaches into the 10-foot side setback. Additionally, the existing lot coverage, 41.8%, exceeds the maximum allowed by 1.8%. So you all have seen this before. In 2022, a variance was approved for the property to allow a home addition to encroach into the rear setback. That has not been constructed, and the applicant has changed their plans slightly. So the photo on the left shows the existing front facade, and the survey on the right shows the existing conditions. So the applicant is now proposing to demolish the existing house and then build a new house on the existing foundation. The new house would encroach a maximum of 34 feet into the rear setback and a maximum of 3 feet into the side setback. The applicant would also be removing other impervious surfaces on the lot, which reduces the lot coverage to 34.1% and therefore bringing it into compliance. The elevations are shown on the left and the site plan is shown to the right. While the subject property meets the minimum lot area, it only has 30 feet of frontage along Vanderland Drive, which is significantly less than the 115 required for corner lots in the R100 zoning district. Although the home was constructed facing Vermac Road, the regulatory lot frontage and front property line as defined by the zoning ordinance is along Vanderland Drive. This was not caused by the current property owner. Additionally, as a corner lot, the property has 2 street setbacks and a rear setback, which constrains the buildable area, and then that's further constrained by the unusual shape. The rear and side property lines are severely tapered, creating a triangular shape that reduces the buildable area by almost 20%. This lot is unique within the subdivision. Only one other property has a lot frontage of that size, and none are hampered by a triangular shape of this magnitude. The proposed new home will be in a very similar footprint to the existing home and appears to be the minimum relief necessary to accommodate the improvements to the property. The new home would maintain the same 3-foot encroachment into the side setback as the existing home. The new home would increase the encroachment into the rear setback, but they're also proposing to bring the lot coverage into compliance by removing other impervious surface on the lot, of which staff is very supportive. Without accounting for the unique conditions of the site, the strict application of the setbacks would prevent new construction, which staff considers a practical difficulty. The proposed home would not affect the character of the neighborhood and would not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare. Overall, staff finds that the request meets the spirit and intent of the zoning ordinance. Based on these reasons, staff recommends approval of the request subject to the conditions shown on the screen here, conditioning them to the submitted site plan, and then construction would need to start within 2 years of the granting of the variance. We received 2 letters in support. Those were included in the packet. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you.
I have a question, and you alluded to this in your explanation, but I still don't quite get it. It's regarding the front of the property line being on Vanderland Drive, although the house faces and the address is Vermac Road. And
Yeah.
you mentioned it's defined, set forth by the zoning ordinance. Can you just explain that? a
Yeah,
little bit?
absolutely. Very good question. So corner lots obviously have 2 street setbacks, and we consider the one that is shortest to be the front setback. Yeah, which is why the front setback is technically from Vanderland Drive, even though, as you can see on here, it's a super tiny portion, and the house wasn't constructed facing that way.
And so to build on that, when the house was constructed, and it doesn't matter, it's irrelevant now, but was it a mistake to have it? I mean, I know they can't have it face Vanderland Drive, but
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think the house was constructed in the 70s, so I'm not totally sure what kinds of
I guess they
regulations
didn't
were
have a
going on there.
choice. But I guess they just didn't have a choice to have it face the front of the property line because there wasn't enough room.
Right. Yeah.
All a moot point. I was just curious. Thank you.
Valid. It's a good question. Any other thoughts, questions? Would the applicant care to address the board and state the case?
Good evening. I'm Nicole Haig,
Good evening.
and this is my boyfriend, Rohan McFarland. We met you a while back.
Yes, yes.
So, we're really excited. I came and spoke to you guys. I've been living in Dunwoody for almost 24 years with my 4 children, and we were really excited about the changes we were going to make before. And then we had people coming in, and we had contractors, and they were looking at the house, and we got a lot of from people as they were coming in and expressing concerns about the house as it existed already. And as the numbers started to come in, and they went from 5 to 6 figures, and then 200 to 300 to 400 to 500,000, it just did not make any sense to me to pour that amount of money into a house that was built in the 70s. It just didn't make sense. And I'm like, well, we're not going anywhere anyway, so let's build a new house. Why not? I've never lived in a new house before, so that would be fun. So that's how this has evolved over time, and that's how we've gotten here today.
Okay. Anyone else here to speak in favor of the application? No? Anyone here to speak in opposition? Okay, great. Then we'll close it and the board will have a discussion. Any other questions for the applicant or anybody staff? Or anything? Okay, good. Well, hope it's on the record.
Well, no, the point was, even though when you take the house down, because it still is being built into setbacks, where if you were granted variances to do things already in the setback, so now we have to think of it as a brand new build on property. So even though it's the setbacks, they didn't go anywhere. So the setbacks, it wasn't like they were there were original setbacks to the property that are tied. So we have to start, we start afresh, as if it's an empty lot.
Yep.
And
that's the discussion we had.
the side setback encroachment will be the same. What I don't remember is
There's,
the new setback is
there's,
34 feet. Into the rear? What is the current existing?
well, the trade-off was the less impervious surface, right? They came into compliance with that, yeah. Or the lot coverage rather, not impervious, but yeah.
Well, reducing.
Right, essentially, yeah. So yes, there was more encroachment than there is previously.
It's a trade-off, but one that staff is okay with and it favors. so-
Yes, ultimately. And there's no opposition to the surrounding neighbors about the encroachment. That's usually what the first thing you look for is any, the neighbors that are most affected, if there's any issues with that, so.
And those two directly impacted neighbors sent their letters of support, so.
Correct.
no issues there.
Yeah. Okay,
I
When,
move.
when you close, well, they gotta close. You guys have to close the public portion.
Is the public closed?
public's closed.
Oh, it's closed,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
We were talking about closed.
Yeah.
Okay,
You guys were talking when we closed it.
So at the end of the day, is it gonna be more or less coverage? Shillians,
It's less.
Yeah, so it's less lot coverage, it's a bigger house.
there you go.
But
Boom.
they're removing, you can see here, there's some concrete, there's some brick, there's some driveway over here. They're gonna be removing a lot of that. Additionally, I believe you're reducing the size of the deck by a little bit, the existing deck.
Okay, let's do it.
all right. I move to approve the request for a variance from chapter 27, section 58 to allow a house to encroach into the rear setback and side setback with the following conditions. 1, construction must be in substantial compliance with the submitted site plan that shows the lot area as 15,160 square feet. See Appendix A. 2, if construction has not commenced within 2 years of the granting of this variance, approval shall be void.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Congratulations
Thanks so much.
and good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So how long is it gonna take for the house?
and
to
with
be
the
built?
housewarming party.
A year? Okay, we'll see you at the home warming, we'll be right there. No, we're just kidding.
So we're in the basement, in the front bedroom, we're gonna be everywhere. And you are.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
sure. Other business? Public comment? No public comment? Board comment?
The only thing I would notice on that application, and I don't know where the site plan is, but it spells Vermac incorrectly. It says Vermark. So I don't know legally, I know it's not a legal issue, but I don't know where y'all pull it from, so you just might make a note.
Yeah, we get that from, they submit it from the surveyor, from the architect. So I will make a mental note.
That's fine. I noticed in there, further in the packet, it's corrected, so I just want to
Yeah.
make sure legally it was actually Vermac.
I
is-
know that it wasn't our staff,
Clearly. So like this.
I assumed it
I
was
have
DeKalb
spell check.
County. I assumed DeKalb County always.
No,
The plat book.
I think it was the surveyor on this one, and then I know that the architect did the site plan, so the architect probably caught that mistake and corrected it for the site plan.
just had one in the file. Wrong.
All right, Claire, you done?
Yes.
Excellent. It's adjourned.
All right, well, happy holidays, everyone. Enjoy. See you next year, I guess. Yeah. I know.
Think of these kids in